Good morning, good morning, good morning to you. Oh, that cat. Hope everybody can find me for our last session this morning. Looking in that book. Hi, Christine. So our last morning session until May the 25th. Just was reading over the schedule for my Festival of Homiletics next week and getting super excited. The schedule starts a little later in the day, I think to allow for people all over North America to be part of it, which is really cool. And I'm like in total geeked out preacher nerd glory this morning, looking at all of the wonderful things I'm going to be able to listen to and learn next week. Thanks for being here with me this morning. Oh, everybody's coming online. Nice to see you. So this is your last Facebook Live session till May the 25th, except for Sunday, May the 17th? No. Yeah, May the 17th. Sunday, May 17th, we'll be on at 10 a.m. Next week in this time slot, you won't have a live video. No one stepped up to host that, so you're on your own. And I have pre-scheduled a post that will include some links to some places where you can find some Voices United music, to the readings for the day, and also to a link to some Thich Nhat Hanh lectures. So he's who we've been reading from the book, Pieces Every Step, each morning. So there'll be enough there to fill your soul in the morning. And that post, I think I'm going to post those for 9 a.m. Next time, just to allow you to have some time to get on board with them. And I am considering strongly changing the time for our morning reflection also to 9 a.m. starting on May the 25th. That way, the days are longer. We've got lots of light in the morning. Maybe it'll encourage us all to get up a little bit earlier, get moving a little bit earlier, and then it won't be kind of smack in the middle of our morning, especially for those of you that are gardening and doing things like that. By 10 o'clock, you probably want to be outside. So thinking 9 o'clock, May 25th. So our times for our live sessions are going to change. May 25th, it's going to be, morning sessions are going to be at 9 a.m. Evening sessions are moving to 6 p.m. And as always, those will always be saved on our Facebook as well as on our YouTube. So if you don't want to listen to them till 10 or at 7:30 or at midnight, you'll be able to find them. So without further ado, let us have a look at our morning readings. So our morning readings this morning from Thich Nhat Hanh, Pieces Every Step. The first one, yesterday we heard a little bit about sitting meditation, or just sitting. I think yesterday was just called Sitting Anywhere. Today is called Sitting Meditation. And so he's going to introduce us to this concept of sitting meditation. So let's have a listen. The most stable posture for meditation is sitting cross-legged on a cushion. That's easy for him to say, who's been doing it his whole life. But let's keep reading. I might have some advice for you at the end. If sitting cross-legged, you've just already checked out, because that's not possible. But I might have some help for you. So sitting, choose a cushion that is the right thickness to support you. The half lotus and full lotus positions are excellent for establishing stability of body and mind. And laughing again. He's not wrong, but they're not easy. To sit in the lotus position, gently cross your legs by placing one foot for the half lotus or both feet for the full lotus on the opposite thighs. If the lotus position is difficult, it is fine just to sit cross-legged or in any comfortable position. That's the key thing to hear. Or in any comfortable position. It's okay to sit in a chair, but with your spine upright. Allow your back to be straight. Keep your eyes half closed. And fold your hands comfortably in your lap. If you prefer, you can sit on a chair with your feet flat on the floor and your hands resting on your lap. Or you can lie on the floor or on your back with your legs straight out a few inches apart and your arms at your sides, preferably palms up. So he does give us lots of options. If your legs or feet fall asleep or begin to hurt during sitting meditation so that your concentration becomes disturbed, feel free to adjust your position. If you do this slowly and attentively, following your breath and each movement of your body, you will not lose a single moment of concentration. If the pain is severe, stand up, walk slowly and mindfully, and when you are ready, sit down again. In some meditation centers, practitioners are not permitted to move during periods of sitting meditation. They often have to endure great discomfort. To me, this seems unnatural. I have to agree. When a part of our body is numb or in pain, it is telling us something, and we should listen to it. We sit in meditation to help us cultivate peace, joy, and nonviolence, not to endure physical strain or to injure our bodies. To change the position of our feet or to do a little walking meditation will not disturb others very much, and it can help us a lot. Sometimes we can use meditation as a way of hiding from ourselves and from life, like a rabbit going down into his hole. Doing this, we may be able to avoid some problems for a while, but when we leave our hole, we will have to confront them again. For example, if we practice our meditation very intensely, we may feel kind of relief as we exhaust ourselves and divert our attention from confronting our difficulties. But when our energy returns, our problems will return with them. We need to practice meditation gently, but steadily, throughout daily life, not wasting a single opportunity or event to see deeply into the true nature of life, including our everyday problems. Practicing in this way, we dwell in profound communion with life. How beautiful is that? And that makes me think about faith, too. Sometimes what he's talking about there is like, don't just meditate when you get to a meditation center. Don't just meditate when you're sitting for 1 hour a day on a meditation cushion somewhere and checking out from the world. His lessons, as we're hearing in the book, are to take our practice into everyday life. And so everything becomes a meditation. Everything becomes an exercise in mindfulness. And I believe that faith is exactly the same way. We don't just practice our faith on Sunday morning at 10 a.m. in church. We're learning that here through the isolation. We can practice faith anywhere, and we can worship anywhere and anytime. We don't just practice our faith when we join together here in our morning reflections or evening meditations. And if you are only doing it that time, you're encouraged to take that feeling, this feeling of inspiration, this feeling of being connected with God, and try and find ways to connect that into your everyday life, into the space beyond the walls or of a church where you're not at right now anyway. So that's the lesson for today. And I hear both a lesson in meditation and a lesson in practicing faith. So whatever spiritual practice feels right and good for each of us, that is to be taken not just for 1 hour somewhere in the week or in the day, but also out into your daily life so that it becomes a part of your life. Yeah, I like that. Good book. I'm going to keep reading these each day next week, so you're going to miss out on a few of them. I strongly recommend that you buy this book. You can get it, I believe, through Amazon, and it would arrive at your step. It's a wonderful book for daily, everyday reading. He's got a number of them, and I've got a lot of them on my shelf. I actually think they're over there in that pile. And great books, really great books, great lectures. Have a look at them next week, and even tomorrow. I have it posted for tomorrow. Tomorrow you'll find it at 10 a.m. because you're used to that this week. Next week they'll be posted at 9, but you go look for them even if you're looking at 10. Deal? Okay. So, I've kind of got my feet all kicked back this morning. I feel like I'm like, whoa. But I don't care. I'm really comfortable. The dog's head is on my lap. Got a lot of work to do, and I got the window open. It's a beautiful day. All right, so our readings this morning coming from the Daily Lectionary are different. We've been reading Psalm 102 all week. We have a reading from Psalm 66 this morning. We're reading from Genesis this morning, and we're reading from Acts, but a little further along, Acts 27. I also included a reading from Mark this week today because the prayer that I found from John Fairchild, what's his name? Let me see. Richard Fairchild. Richard Fairchild is based on a Mark reading that I think was really important to listen to, especially after the scriptures that we're going to listen to from the lectionary. So let's have a listen. Psalm 66, verses 8 to 20. And I'm reading again from the Voice version of the Bible. It's a newer version, copyright 2012, from Thomas Nielsen Incorporated. You can read what that Bible is all about by Googling it, The Voice Bible. Check it out. Okay, so Psalm 66, verses 8 to 20. Everyone, bless our true God. Let praise-filled voices be heard near and far, at home and on foreign soil. Praise the one who gives us life and keeps us safe, who does not allow us to stumble in the darkness. For you have put us to the test, O God. You have refined us as silver is refined. You trapped us with a snare. You have laid upon our backs a heavy burden. You allowed us to be conquered and let our enemies run over us. We journeyed through dangers, through fire and flood. And you led us finally to a safe place, a land rich and abundant. I will come into your temple with burnt offerings. I will fulfill my promises to you. The oaths that parted my lips and were promises my mouth freely made when I was suffering and in anguish. I will bring you my sacrifices, plump beasts and the sweet smoke of consecrated rams. I will also offer you bulls and goats. Come and listen, everyone who reveres the true God, and I will tell you what God has done for me. I cried out to God with my mouth, and I praised God with my tongue. If I entertain evil in my heart, the Lord will not hear me. But surely God has heard me. God has paid attention to the urgency of my request. May the true God be blessed, for God did not turn away from my prayer, nor did God hold back God's loyal love from me. A reading from the Psalm. Reading now from Genesis chapter 6, verses 5 to 22 from the Daily Lectionary. The preamble is this. By Noah's time, nearly all the people were drugged on the fumes of their egos. Wickedness had become the number one all-consuming human addiction. The Eternal One saw that wickedness was rampaging throughout the earth, and that evil had become the first thought on every mind, the constant purpose of every person. At that point, God's heart broke, and God regretted having ever made man in the first place. The Eternal One said, I know what I'll do. I will wipe humanity, my special creation, from the face of the earth, humans, animals, creeping things, and birds of the sky, for I regret that I ever made them. But there was one person whom the Lord could not let go of, Noah, because this man pleased him. Here's the account of Noah and his descendants. Noah was a good man, a right living man, the best man of his generation, and he walked closely with God. Noah fathered 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. They lived at a time when the world had become vile and corrupt. Violence was everywhere. God saw the earth was in ruins, and he knew why. All people on earth except Noah had lived corrupt lives and ruined God's plan for them. He had to do something. The Eternal One to Noah. Noah, I have decided to wipe out all the living creatures I have made because they are spreading violence throughout the earth. Watch, I will destroy them with the earth. I want you to build an ark. Build it out of cypress wood. Make rooms in the ark and cover it inside and outside with tar. Here's how you will do it. Build the ark 450 feet long, 75 feet wide, and 45 feet high. Put a roof on the ark and leave a gap 18 inches below the roof line for air to circulate. Put the door of the ark on its side and build it with lower, middle, and upper decks. Look, I am going to unleash a torrent and a flood on the earth to destroy all flesh under the heavens which breathe the breath of life. Everything that is on earth will die. But I will make a pact with you, Noah, a covenant agreement. To survive, you and your family, you and your wife and your sons' wives, must go into the ark. And out of all the living creatures I have made, you must bring 2 of each kind into the ark with you, to keep them alive. Bring 1 male and 1 female of each kind. Bring all kinds of animals, and all sorts of animals, and birds, and all varieties of creatures that creep on the ground in pairs, so that each species will survive. Also, you must bring food with you. Bring every kind of food that you may be eaten, and store it inside the ark. That way, you and all creatures will have enough food to eat. So Noah listened to God, and he built the ark. He did everything God asked him to do. Here ends the reading from the book of Genesis. A familiar story, may be heard in a different way. And reading from Acts 27, verses 1 to 12. Ooh, it's chilly. Lucy was laying on my feet, and she just got up and moved, and the window's open, so I'll get that close. All right, Acts 27, verses 1 to 12. Here's the little preamble. At different points in Acts, Luke shows how the good news of Jesus challenges Greco-Roman culture and religion, but he also shows that Christianity is not subversive to the Roman government. These direct statements by Roman officials about Paul's innocence support this message. However, a challenge to culture and religion always ends up being a challenge to the government, as later Christians will learn. So here's the reading. The date was set for us to depart for Rome, and Paul and some other prisoners were transferred to the custody of a Roman officer named Julius, a member of the Augustan division. I, Luke, was permitted to join Paul for his journey to Rome, along with Aristarchus, a Macedonian brother from Thessalonica. Oh, this is going to be a time this morning. I think I need a little coffee before I keep reading this. As you know, I don't read the readings. I give them a quick scan before we read them. I got some place names I got to say this morning. It's going to need a little coffee. All right, let's try that again. I, Luke, was permitted to join Paul for his journey to Rome, along with Aristarchus, a Macedonian brother from Thessalonica. He boarded a ship from Adramyttium and was stopping in ports along the coast of Asia. We stopped the next day at Sidon, and Julius kindly allowed Paul to visit his friends and be taken care by them. We sailed from there north of Cyprus because the winds were unfavorable. We passed Sicilia and Pamphylia on our right, and then came to Myra in Lycia. There, Julius found a ship from Alexandria headed directly to Italy, to which we were transferred. The winds were still contrary, so we made slow progress for a number of days and with difficulty passed Cnidus and sailed south towards Crete and past Cape Salmon on the eastern end. Sailing conditions were adverse, to say the least. Finally, we came to a place called Fair Havens, near the city of Lycia on the south coast of Crete. We had lost a lot of time already. It was late in the year for sailing, following the Day of Atonement, and conditions had deteriorated from adverse to dangerous. Paul tried to warn those in charge. Paul said, "Sirs, if we proceed, I can see that our voyage will be dangerous and will involve heavy loss, not only of cargo, but of the ship itself, not only of the ship, but also of our lives." But the officer ignored Paul and instead trusted the ship's pilot and owner, who felt they could proceed. We had two choices, Luke says. We could anchor in the harbor of Fair Havens and spend the winter, or we could proceed west along the coastline, hoping to reach Phoenix and wait there for calmer spring weather. Fair Havens was not a good option, though, being vulnerable to winter storms, so most of us agreed we should try to reach Phoenix, whose harbor was more protected. So, that's the reading from Acts for today. I believe that you keep reading. Let me have a look where you're going tomorrow. If you want to keep reading on the story tomorrow, look for the passages that will be linked for you. And when you click on them, it'll take you directly to the reading for tomorrow. And in Bible Gateway, where you'll find the readings will come up when you click the link. In Bible Gateway, you can choose all kinds of different translations and interpretations of the Bible to read from. That's one of this Bible nerd's favorite things to do, is to take a familiar passage and read it in all kinds of different translations and have a listen for what you hear. So continuing to read from the Bible, but not from the lectionary. I'm reading from Mark for you this morning because it's the passage on which our prayer is based today. So reading from Mark 13, 5-8, and now reading from the New International Version. Jesus said to them, "Watch out that no one deceives you. Many will come in my name claiming I am he, and will deceive many. When you hear of wars or rumors of wars, do not be alarmed. Such things must happen, but the end is still to come. Nation will rise against nation and kingdom against kingdom. There will be earthquakes in various places and famines. These are the beginnings of birth pains." thinking about the end. And I don't know what I feel about that, other than to say that there's a lot of talk right now about apocalypse and this being the end of times and those kinds of things. But I want you to hear this prayer this morning, and hopefully it will help to ease your heart today. So we read about in Genesis, the reading about how that myth in Genesis, the story of Noah, and myth, I don't mean lie. By myth, I have to say it's a story that reveals a greater truth, told in a way that allows our hearts to hear it and our minds to understand the great mysteries of our faith. Myths are a long-held storytelling and preaching practice that allow people to hear deep truths in stories that they themselves may be deeply unbelievable. And so in that story we heard that kind of next creation story about how we got to where we are. God is about to wipe out the face of the earth with a great flood. And then we heard in our reading from Acts about another big storm. And so this reading this morning from Richard Fairchild and posted on the Kir Shalom website is a beautiful one for us to think about in times of uncertainty and when our hearts might be troubled. Will you pray with me? There is fear, O God, and there is an uncertainty in many human hearts, even our hearts today, and for some, every day. There is aimlessness in the hearts of others, senseless excitements about the details of the end of time, about the signs that are all around us for us to read and to understand, and yet they have no peace in this knowing, and often argue about the meaning of the things with others, instead of breathing in strength of the earth and the sky, breathing out love and compassion upon their own selves and the self of the world around them, the world that you, God, have made. O great God, you know about fear, aimlessness, senseless excitements, and deep depressions of the soul. You understand the afflictions of the lonely, of those who have no one to draw close to. We pray especially today for these, O God, that they may know your presence and see your power and be consumed by your glory, and so find that which we all need. Shine your light, we pray. Shine your light, we pray, upon those we name before you in our hearts now. Be it ourselves or the person next to us or one we left in another place. Perhaps one we heard about on TV or one who is our neighbor. Peace, O God, to them as we lift them up before you now. O Lord, hear our prayer. And all God's people said, Amen. So I'm going to sing this morning. Sit up a little bit now. The dog's not on my feet. I'm going to sing for you this morning, and I'm going to sing what I think it was Diane that recommended Morning Has Broken. And I said I would sing this one, and I would share that I also have a funny story about this. I don't know if I should share this story, but I'm gonna. It's a funny one, but it's also a really good one. So it's a little long, so have a drink of coffee. Not that long. So I'm trying to think what year it would have been. Maybe 2010, 2011, something like that, maybe. And Reverend Philip Kennedy and Reverend Valerie Kennedy were the ministers. Reverend Philip Kennedy still is minister at Woodlawn United Church, my home church. And they had asked me to come and sing at the Morningside, Easter Sunday Morningside service. And at that point in my life, many of you know, I live with PTSD. I've lived with PTSD since 2001. And at that point in my life, my panic condition was not at its best, and I was struggling. And I thought singing is something that always makes me really nervous, believe it or not, and especially in front of others, or it used to, way more than it does now. And I thought, oh no, I can't do it. But, you know, Philip is near and dear to my heart. And he said, oh, come on. It's at the morning service. There'll be like 16 people there. Just come do it for me. Come do it for me. It's a great service. It's in the little church. It's going to be wonderful. Please come do it for me. And I said, oh, okay. And so I decided to do it. And as the weeks got nearer and closer to it, I was in a state. Like, I was absolutely terrified to do this, but I also didn't want to let him down, but I also really wanted to do it. That's the weird thing about anxiety and fear. It's not that you don't want to do something. You're afraid of that feeling that comes from being so incredibly nervous. Not worried about screwing up the words, not worried, you know, but as someone who lives with a panic condition, the deepest fear is having a panic attack, and I was freaking out about that. And I have a family member who will not be named, because in this story you'll learn that they were a drug pusher. And they said to me, well, what if you just took an Ativan? And I'd never taken an Ativan or anything like that, and this is not to promote that. In fact, it's a lesson in only getting prescriptions from your pharmacist and your doctor. And she said, just take these. They're fine. They're only really low dose. You know, if you take one and you find it's not working, take another one and you'll be fine. It just takes the edge off. It'll be okay. And I was like, well, okay. And so I trusted this person, and I took them with me. So Easter Sunday morning happens, and it's like 5 o'clock in the morning, and I'm nervous, and I'm like, no, I'm okay. I'm okay. But then as it got closer and closer, I was a disaster. And I thought, I'm going to take one of these. So I took one, and it didn't work right away. Like, it didn't work like in 5 minutes. See where this is going? So I was like, well, she said if it doesn't work, take another one. So I took both. I took both Ativans on an Easter Sunday morning before our morningside service where I was to sing. And they still weren't working by the time I started to drive there. And thankfully, there's nobody on the road that very early in the morning. And I wasn't of a clear mind, and I wasn't thinking, I really had no idea what these medications do. And I got to church just fine. I was feeling fine. And as I'm sitting there, as the service starts to progress, I'm like feeling warm. I get that warm feeling, but all of a sudden I'm not feeling nervous anymore. I felt very confident. I felt very clear. And I got up to sing, and it went really well. I felt a little tipsy, but I didn't appear tipsy to anyone else. And I sang, and it was fine. And it stayed with me. So even at the 10 a.m. service, because I got home, shouldn't have been driving, but I didn't know that at the time because I wasn't in the right state of mind. I got home, and Ian and the girls and we went back to church for 10 a.m. And when the offering was passed around at 10 a.m., they said, oh, you did such a beautiful job this morning. Come on up and sing that song at 10 a.m. on Easter Sunday morning at church. Keeping in mind the panic condition and the nervousness. I didn't have any of that because I was stoned. And unintentionally stoned, and didn't really have any awareness of the kind of a condition I was in. And I'm like, sure, no problem. Ian is looking at me. This is my ex-husband. He's like, okay. So I got up, I sang. I think it went well. I mean, I felt like Cher. And by the time we got to Easter dinner, it started to wear off. And I'm sitting at Easter dinner, and my mouth is heavy. It's like I got a mouthful of cotton balls. Nobody else is aware of this except for Ian, as I've shared this with him. When I got home from the early morning service, I shared with him what I had done. And he said, oh, no, that's really bad. Don't worry, I got you. Because he's great. He's a great guy, and he was like, don't worry, you'll be okay. I'm right here. And so he looked over at me at my mother's house at Easter dinner. He's like, are you okay? And I'm like, okay. And then he said, Kim, are you all right? Like across the table, I'm like, I think I gotta go lie down. And I got up. I got up from Easter dinner, and I went and laid down at my mother's house on my old bed, and I fell asleep. Out cold. Got me home. I slept for like 18 hours or something. But that's not the funny part of the story. The funny part of the story is that I heard from Reverend Philip Kennedy shortly after that. He actually reached out to me, and if you know Phil, he's not a kind of guy that has visions. He's not an airy-fairy kind of guy. He's got his feet pretty firmly planted in the logical, and believes firmly in the mystery of faith, but deeply grounded. And he says to me, okay, I got something weird to tell you. I'm not sure where this comes from. I leave it to Valerie to have all the creative visions and all that stuff. But when you were singing on Easter Sunday morning, I saw you in a white gown and in a stole. Have you ever thought about being a minister? My first outward call, came from a time that I barely remember, when somebody saw something in me that I didn't even know was there. And it wasn't until a few years later that I said to Phil, so that morning, you weren't the only one seeing things. I was stoned. And so we've had many a good laugh at that. It's a terrible story about don't take other people's prescriptions. But it also is a funny story because I was okay. I had people who loved me and kept me safe and made sure that I was definitely okay. And I never did that again. And we got through, and I showed up. I did what I was asked to do. And in that moment, somebody saw something in me that I hadn't even seen in myself yet. And so that's pretty cool. And this is the song that I sang. So Diane, thanks for asking for this song. That's a really long story that goes with that song. But every time I sing it, it takes me to that place of standing in the little white church at Woodlawn United Church, feeling like I was Cher, singing Morning is Broken, a song made famous by a gentleman who used to call himself Cat Stevens. And I'm not going to massacre his name because I can't think of what it is right now, but he now goes by a Muslim name. He converted to Islam, a religion of peace. So let's sing Morning Has Broken. Morning has broken like the first morning. Blackbird has spoken like the first bird. Praise for the singing, praise for the morning, praise for them springing fresh from the word. Sweet the rain's new fall, sunlight from heaven, like the first dew fall on the first grass. Praise for the sweetness of the wet garden, sprung in completeness where God's feet pass. Ours is the sunlight, ours is the morning, born of the one light, Eden saw play. Praise with elation, praise every morning, God's recreation of the new day. So thanks, folks. Morning has broken indeed. It's a beautiful day. Make sure you get outside. Make sure you look for our posts as we go. Thanks, Marge. Marge and John are saying, you go, Cher. Well, hang on. A couple of good movies that came to mind while we were thinking this morning, and actually a good miniseries. Lillian and I watched Unorthodox on Netflix. Fantastic. Really, really, really good. Really, really good miniseries. I think it's only 4 episodes long, maybe 4 to 6. It was fantastic. A little insight into some Orthodox Jewish practices and about a young woman's search for finding who she is in the world. Always, I love the, I think it's Evan Almighty. Evan Almighty might be the one with Steve Carell about Noah. Yeah, it's Evan Almighty. There's another one called Bruce Almighty, but I think it's Evan Almighty is the one I'm thinking of. Yeah, so those are two ones that kind of come to mind to me right now. And, you know, since we're talking about Cher, we watched Moonstruck last week too. So enjoy your movies, enjoy your sunshine, enjoy everything. I will miss you, but I am grateful for the break, and I will see you again on May 25th at 9 a.m. I will see you, however, on Sunday morning, 10 a.m. March, it feels like March, May 17th at 10 a.m. for our morning Sunday worship, and then again on May the 24th for Sunday worship at 10 a.m. Both of those will be live, but other than that, everything will be posted on our Facebook. Thanks to the wonderful Jen Rand for posting regularly for me, and that's it. That's all I got. I'll be at the Festival of Homiletics all next week, from probably this very same spot. I love you. Have a great week and take care of yourselves. Bye, guys.